Initially shown off in fall of 2018 and released in December of that year, the king of all things shell, lava, and maniacal echoey laughter, BOWSER, was released in a very big way, all 30 centimeters of a very big way. Apparently available to both buy and win in Crane games, but don't quote me on that last part because it was from a translated website and I don't know how factual that is. But anyway, this guy quickly became the hot ticket Mario themed item. But is he worth the absurd secondhand prices? Well, no. But anyway, this gentleman will first need to be put together, and for the most part, it's a pretty simple thing to do. Just be sure you follow the instructions closely. Do not get ahead of yourself, please. Because this guy is very much like a model kit in terms of quality, so if you have to take him apart, it's gonna be stressful. I'm just telling you right now. But if you're patient and careful, your big boy should look like this. Big, special, and loving thank yous magoo to my boy Will, aka Space Tree Studios, for helping me acquire this boy. Now, let's take a look at the box. It's a badass freaking box. I like that the image wraps all the way around into another image that also wraps all the way around, or at least semi through the way around and everything. This is all really well and cool and everything, but what I like the most is the top because it's just this dark square. You've got Bowser's eyes over here, Super Mario, got Barcode, Jaya, Nintendo officially licensed, and that's pretty much it when it comes to the box. I mean, this is the bottom, and like you just saw a couple seconds ago, when you open it up, you're gonna get like this red slash across over here. Really, really cool. Really awesome stuff. This box was a little banged up when I first got the figure in, but for the most part, it serves its purpose. It's big, it's bad. It's a BOWSER. And here it is, a BOWSER. Don't worry, that's the last of my Mario impression. Moving on. So paint and detail-wise, we're not going to get too much paint. We're going to get just enough detail on there that, you know, just works for a character like Bowser, but for the most part, this dude's pretty barren. The detail on his eyebrows and hair over here is very nice, rather simple, but very nice nonetheless. Gonna get some decently painted on rings around his horns over here. You can totally tell it was painted because of how messy it is right over here at the seam. The eyes are very much painted on. You can see the residue over here from the spraying that they did, but the applications of the pupils are actually very, very well done. And if you give Bowser the Brazilian wax, you can see that they're not even fully applied, but it still works so very well because once that eyebrow goes back on, not a damn thing can be seen other than that. I'm a pretty big fan of how they handled Bowser's mouth. They all look like separate pieces that were just fused into one, and it works because Bowser's got a pretty bulbous looking mouth, and I think this little kit figure thing really did bring it all home. Taking a look inside Bowser's mouth over here, we have some nicely sculpted teeth and such, but we're gonna have to bring the figure down a little bit to really see the nitty-gritties. So as far as the top of Bowser's mouth goes, there really isn't any detail, it's just all going to be red, but when you move the figure down a bit, you can see that there is a tongue in there. It's nice and plumpy and plush and all that stuff. Looking at the lower jaw over here, you can kind of tell that most of the inner mouth was painted red, as you can see by the teeth over here. Not fully painted, but honestly, it's not anywhere near a problem. Save for some missing strands of red around the upper teeth over here, I'd say this is pretty acceptable for what the figure is. Bowser's underbelly over here is part of the mold, but it is painted on. You can see some of the messy edges going about over here. Not too bad. Not too bad on either side, honestly. And as far as detail goes for Bowser's lower half, there really isn't too much going on. Bowser's got some rounded, stumpy legs over here. We are going to get some details towards the toes and such to kind of distinctify that they are toes. And then obviously, as you can tell, the toenails will be painted on. I know a good majority of people who bought this aren't very happy about the fact that there are so many seams on this figure, but for the most part, the seams don't bother me. Moving back on up to the arms over here, Bowser's got his bicep and wrist bracelets going on here with the painted on spikes. And save for the seams that run through right on the front, I really don't have an issue with these things. I just wish that these parts of them were actually just on the back of the arm instead of right out in front. And as you can see, the claws are painted over here. Not the best. There's some rub off going on here, but yeah, effective, as is. The seam issue for Bowser's other arm and his bicep and wrist gauntlets over here is very much still prevalent, and this will not close no matter what I do. I don't know if this is something that plagues all the copies or just mine, but yeah. seams that aren't fully closing like that. I don't know. It doesn't... And yet again, painted claws. And of course, Bowser's got his little dominatrix necklace going on over here. I do believe they are two separate pieces that are situated on either side of Bowser's neck, mostly because it really doesn't travel under his head at all. And when you put his shell on back here, there's nothing there, and you can easily see that, so yeah. And now we are going to spin Nintendo Gamera around and take a look at that spiky shell. And this is easily my favorite part of the figure. I love how angular the shell looks. The additions of the spikes just make this look so very awesome and even intimidating to a sense. I understand it's likely a fairly simple thing to do, especially with this kind of material, but I don't care, man. This is all so freaking good, and I'm pretty sure there isn't any painted pieces back here. I think these and the spikes are all just molded in different plastic and such. I love the way the lip of the shell kind of conforms to Bowser's head and neck over here. I love how it just sits on his back, almost like a backpack. It almost doesn't feel like it's part of him, but clearly it is. And I love that stumpy little chody spike of a tail. This was probably the biggest pain in the butt to get on because I put the tail on after I put the shell on, and as you can see, even though there is a portion of this spike that is shaved down to meet the curvature of the shell, it sucked. So at the beginning of the video when I said, please don't get ahead of yourself, I was talking from experience because I had to rip his shell off and I was shaking in my skivvies the entire time. So as far as paint and detail go, I am going to give the boy a solid star in terms of detail and in terms of paint, because despite it being spotty in some areas, for Bowser, it just works. And when it comes down to it, you are essentially just paying for the size of the figure, I would say. But anyway, let's move on to articulation. See you in like a minute. Ooh, that's a great shot. Anyway, the arms will be able to rotate. They're not going to rotate all the way around because of Bowser's little dominatrix spiky things over here. They're going to run into the lip of the shell over here, and that's going to prevent them from going all the way around. Now, this arm over here is indeed free to move all the way around, which is something that I already tried and I'm not going to attempt again because moving the arm around with the little spikelets over here actually scratched the bottom of the shell, which I'm pretty sure probably scratched some paint off of this side. Yeah, you can kind of see it over there. So when it comes to the arms, I would say don't push them any further than you think they're willing to go unless you care about scratched paint and stuff. Now, the same thing is essentially going to happen with the legs. You can only go so far up and so far back with them. Although ironically, just like this side's arm, this side's leg can actually move a bit further out and a bit further back. I don't know why, but it just does. There will be nothing at the tail. There will be nothing at the wrists, really. And there will be nothing at the head, nothing at the mouth, nothing at the horns or anything like that. Although you can take his eyebrows out and make them look really, really weird. That pretty much just sums up articulation for BOWSER. Now, before getting this thing and watching my share of reviews, I had no idea that this guy would actually be articulated. So in the sense that I wasn't expecting articulation, but got it anyway, I'm gonna give it a solid star. But before we move on to size comparisons, I do have to address the big elephant in the room. Turtle, Koopa, Thing, Dennis Hopper. So the major issue that I've seen plaguing this release is mostly going to be within the quality control and the price. Future Rob's gonna have to put the Oh. That's 15 cents. Okay, maybe they meant to put a comma there, not a decimal, and that'll bring it up to like about $14, $15, and that makes a little bit more sense. But if this 1.999 yen is factual, I guess that kind of backs up the whole crane game prize thing, huh? That still does not detract from the fact that you will have to pay upwards of $50 for this thing if you want to add it into your collection. If this thing really was a measly 15 cents or however much money you would have to put in to actually win this thing at a crane game type thing, then yeah, I guess its quality control and such isn't really justified, but yeah, you're really not paying much for it. But for us collectors in the United States, the size alone causes this guy to go upwards of, like I said, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 plus dollars. And you really need to weigh out your options here. Sometimes the price that this thing goes for can be equal to that of just getting the SH Figuarts Bowser, which yes, is smaller, but is articulated and looks pretty dang good. So I'll leave that all up to you. I mean, I think I paid $40, $50 for this thing, and I feel pretty satisfied with it, but I know that's not going to be a shared opinion or feeling with other collectors. But not going to lie, even with all the little issues that even my copy has, I kinda don't care. Maybe it's just because it's Big Bowser figure and he looks awesome no matter where I put him. It's more so just the fact that the figure's presence is more than enough for me, and that I really don't need much else. It's a Big Bowser figure and I'm happy with it. I love this thing. Could it have been better? Absolutely. But for what I paid for and for what I got, I feel very much enriched by the big coupe. Big! And a wee bit delicate, but still pretty damn awesome to have for any major Bowser fan. I wouldn't recommend getting rough with this though, because again, he still initially does feel like a model kit, and I feel like if he goes falling or gets punched and smacked around too hard, things are gonna break off, and that's not a fun time, especially for 60 bucks. But I'd still say, if you can get it at a price you're willing to pay, do it. Do it right then and there, because once this thing goes out of print and comes off the market entirely, I don't see this guy going for $60. It's a scorcher in Jersey today. But anyway, that's pretty much that when it comes to this figure. He has his quirks, he has his issues. But when it comes to owning Big Bowser figure, I have a Big Bowser figure and I totally friggin' love it, so yeah. I know Bowser technically isn't Godzilla, nor Gamera, nor really too much of a kaiju. Most of the time, I mean, he does get pretty fucking big. But when next we meet, we will return to the Godzilla world, namely Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, and we will be talking about the 2019 reissue of and this time the review won't be 5 minutes long like my original review of this figure when it first came out. What an absolute crime. I missed so much. See you then, see you there. Hope you enjoyed. Social media, merch, all that hoobajab. See you all next time. Peace.